everyone, my name is Maggie Connolly and I am the planetarium specialist here at Roper Mountain Science Center, and today we are going to talk about the seasons. So if we look at our model that we have right here, we see the sun, the earth, and the moon. We're really going to focus on the sun and the earth today. We know that the earth revolves around the sun and that it also rotates on its axis. And this model can show us that. So we're just going to take one real quick trip around the sun. So you can see as we are moving that the earth is rotating and revolving. You can even see the sun, right? Or the moon, excuse me, the moon also revolving around the earth. Yeah, so that's one trip around the sun. Now let's take a look at the earth. We know that the earth, again, rotates on its axis, but if you look at that axis, you'll notice it's not straight up and down, right? It's actually at an angle. So this would be straight up and down. This angle is right about 23.5 degrees. And you might think, well, okay, what? So what? Well, that, my friends, is what we call the reason for the seasons. So let's take a look at what we mean. Let's look at if the model was this way, let's talk about what season we would be in. So first we look at our Earth. We see that this red line represents the equator. Right, so that is going to separate the Earth into the northern and the southern hemisphere. We live in the northern hemisphere, so we do have a red dot over here on this side if you happen to forget where we might be. Now, when we think about the sun, when you think about the sun shining on the Earth, the sun doesn't shine on the Earth at just one point. This is a big sphere, so it has a lot of rays that are going to come out. So let's pretend that my fingers are these sun's rays. We're going to shine on the earth. Let's look where my fingers hit. The majority of my fingers are going to hit in the northern hemisphere, just one in the southern. What does that mean? Well, that means that the northern hemisphere is getting more direct sunlight. If it's getting more direct sunlight, that means that the Earth's surface is going to be hotter. And also, because it's almost like we're leaning into the sun, we have more direct sunlight, our days are going to be longer. So what season is it where we have a hot season with long days? Summer, exactly. So this is what summer looks like for us. Now we're going to spin it. Again, we're going to go to this side. So our moon is kind of in the way, but we can ignore that. We have our sun. Again, it's going to shine on the earth. These are going to be our sun's rays. So we're going to go on in and we're going to see that this time, the majority of the sun's rays are going to hit in the southern hemisphere and not the northern. So what does that mean for the northern hemisphere? Well, this time it means that we are not getting as much direct sunlight. If we're not getting as much direct sunlight, it's not going to be as warm. It's going to be cooler. And because it's almost like we're pointing away from the sun, we're going to have shorter days. So a shorter day with cooler temperatures is going to be winter. Now, one thing to keep in mind, obviously, is that with the northern hemisphere being one way, the southern hemisphere will be the opposite. So in this configuration, it is winter for the northern hemisphere, but it's summer for the southern. And it would be vice versa, the other way. All right, so now let's take a look at what happens in between the summer and the winter. So we are going to spin it about halfway this time. And what we'll notice here is when you look at the axis of the Earth, it's not really pointing towards the sun. It's not really pointing away from the sun. The axis is almost like it would be kind of perpendicular, right? So these sun's rays are going to come in this way, and it's going to hit the Earth kind of like this. So what we're saying here is that neither hemisphere really gets hit more by the sun. It doesn't get any more direct sunlight. So other than, extreme areas at the poles, we kind of have our mild temperatures in this season. So for us, the northern hemisphere, remember we were going from the winter to the summer. So this would be spring. Now, one day a year, which happens to be the day that this video is being recorded, March 19th, 2020 this year, the sun hits just perpendicular to where we have equal parts day and equal parts night. This is called the vernal equinox. which again is today. So we generally say we have about 12 hours of daytime, 12 hours of nighttime, although it is slightly off. We actually have just a couple more minutes of daytime than nighttime, but it's very close. We will have another equinox when we keep spinning. Remember, now we're in summer. And as we're going towards winter, we'll have one more equinox in the autumn. So this is just a little bit about our seasons and how the Earth's tilt helps us to get our seasons. Thank you for listening, and I hope that we get to see you here soon.